In this video, we are going to talk about Lambda functions. I'm going to start by talking about the let function, but then we'll go into Lambda functions and a little bit of background about Lambda functions. So I use Lambda functions in a couple of instances. The primary one is to avoid Visual Basic. So historically, if I wanted some complex function in Excel, which wasn't natively there, I would write some Visual Basic. I would write some code which created that function. The problem with this is that distribution is more of a challenge, distribution of that spreadsheet. So if you receive a spreadsheet that has Visual Basic in it, it's called macro enabled, so an XLSM file. When you receive that file, you will generally be asked, do you want to enable these macros? And the answer should be, if you don't trust the person who's giving you that spreadsheet, or you don't know the person giving you that spreadsheet, the answer should be no. And of course, that person has probably incorporated that Visual Basic in order to put some functionality into the spreadsheet. So when you say no, what you're really saying is you don't want to use this spreadsheet. And of course, you probably do want to use the spreadsheet. So Lambda functions gives an alternative way to create new functions, create those functions in Excel. In some ways, it's not as nice as Visual Basic in terms of error handling, things like that are a little more challenging in Lambda functions, but you definitely get around that distribution problem. And I run up against the distribution problem a fair amount, and so I look for alternatives. Second reason for Lambda functions is that sometimes Excel functions, native Excel functions, do not work well as array formulas. Sometimes that's by design, sometimes that's, I think, just an accident of how the functions have been created, but sometimes they don't work well as array formulas. I find myself wrapping Excel functions that don't work well in that way inside Lambda functions, and then using something like the BYROW function or the map function to get around the problem. So we'll see a simple example of that in a couple minutes. So I'm just going to walk through a series of examples here. We'll go through the spreadsheet, fill in, or go through this template and fill in the details. So first, the let function. So the way the let function works is it takes any number of name and values for that name pairs of inputs, and then the final input is the calculation. So for example, I'm going to create a variable x, which points to cell B1, and a variable y, which points to cell B2, and a formula that takes x and y. And so basically, my formula becomes a little easier to read because I've got variable names as opposed to cell references. And of course, that adds the two numbers together. If I change one of the numbers, it adds it together. So this is a little bit of a silly example, but you can see here my formula is a little easier to read as opposed to cell B1 and B2. Now, I often do this with named ranges. So I might name this cell and name this cell, and then use those in my formula. So I can get around this particular example. But in theory, as we get a more and more complex function, this can make the function easier to read. The other thing that the let function gives us is some efficiency. So I've got some data over here. Some number of columns of random numbers. I'm using the rand array function. Again, rand array, the first parameter is the number of rows, so one row. E1 is the number of columns. We're doing random numbers between 1 and 10. That true makes them integers. So basically, I've got a bunch of random numbers between 1 and 10. Every time I recalculate my spreadsheet, I get a different set. All right, so the let function allows us to get some efficiency here by not recalculating things. So imagine I'm interested in the average. So here's a calculation I want to do. And I want to do different things depending on what that average is. So for example, let's say if the average is less than 5, then we're going to go the average is and is less than 5. Okay, so I've just got some output, which is one output if it's less than 5, and the other one is going to be average is ampersand average. I think I've made a mistake in my formula. Let me fix this. The average is average and is greater than or equal to 5. Close the if statement, close the let statement. Let's wrap text better. There we go. Okay. So this is telling me what the average is, and it's saying what it is. Let's see if I can recalculate my spreadsheet a few times here. There we go. The average is 4.9 is less than 5. Okay. The advantage of using the let function in this formula is that the let function calculates the average once. So if we look at our if statement, we've got the average less than 5, so we use it once there, once here in the true, and once in the false. Now, Excel is smart enough so that in the if statement, it's only going to calculate the true if it is actually true, and it's only going to calculate the false if it's actually false. So the if statement, if we just did this sort of the normal way without the let function, we would calculate the average. We'd have to calculate the average twice. Using the let function, we only had to calculate the average once. So we're getting an efficiency gain. So really the let function gives us two things. One, it gives us potentially more readable formulas by using variables and sensible variable names. And two, it can give us an efficiency gain. Again, average appears 3 times in my if statement. If I needed that calculation, I was going to do it, or Excel would have done it twice. Here, using the let function, I have succeeded in only calculating it once. And second, the other thing you can see is my formula potentially is a little easier to read because I've changed this average, which is what, about 10 characters long, 11 characters long, into AVG, which is only 3. So again, this formula is a little shorter. Okay, lambda functions. So the lambda function here is going to start by feeling a little bit like that let function. So I'm going to do a relatively uninteresting case. So the lambda function lets us define a function. And so I can do x, y. And if you notice, we haven't defined what x and y are yet. Oops, x times y, their product. Okay, so I've just defined a function. I haven't said what the variables are. This is like an Excel function. And the way Excel functions work is you put the name of the function first, and then after the name of the function, you put in parentheses your variables. And what this is going to do is B1, x is going to become B1, y is going to become B2, and the result of the calculation is going to be x times y. So we'll change one of those and see how it updates. So basically, the let function, let's look at this one. The let function, we've got these pairs of names, x, the value for x, y, the value for a y, and the function. And lambda, we define the function with these variable names, x and y, x times y, and then afterwards we tell the Lambda function what the variables are. So again, we haven't done very much yet. Let's do a BYROW. Okay, so here's where Lambda functions start to come into their own and become really useful. So I've got this data set which expands or contracts depending on this input, and I want the sum of each row. The challenge, of course, is if I do sum, I get everything. If I do sum of the row, I get one of them, and of course I can copy that down. But then when I change this to 10, my sum didn't extend automatically, and I've got to extend it. And there's no great way to just reference that row. Now, I could do this some other ways, but this is my solution to this. Oops, let me get rid of these formulas. So we do BYROW. Okay, so I'm calling this BYROW function. BYROW is going to use a Lambda function. We can see the array first and then the function. So it is going to pass into the Lambda function, which we're about to define, the rows one by one. There's an equivalent BYCOL function, which passes the columns in one by one. But this is our Lambda function. Now, we can call this variable whatever we want. There's a single variable. It's all the data in the row. There are a lot of parentheses. So this BYROW function, the first parameter is the array. The second parameter is the Lambda function. The Lambda function is allowed to take one variable. So the first parameter of the Lambda function is whatever we're going to call that variable. The second parameter of the Lambda function is the function that uses that variable. So you can see we've called sum. And this, what this does is it takes each row of data, and in my case, it's going to add them up. There's some other ways to do that. We could use index, we could use all sorts of things, but this is a really straightforward way to add up the data here in a single row. This is a little bit of a challenging function to write in general, because it's hard to write something, it's hard to add up these rows of data in Excel naturally, because if you use sum, you get everything. Okay, so that's an example of the BYROW function. The other place where I use Lambda functions a lot is using map. Now, I'm going to, again, do a calculation in Excel. So we're going to calculate a present value. So the present value, let me just calculate it here so we have it. The present value is the amount divided by 1 plus the rate divided by frequency to the power maturity times frequency. Right, there's my present value. If I have 3 rows, that's great. But if I put in another row, it doesn't extend. Now, of course, I can change this to, right, if we look at this, this has these at functions, which means take the data out of that particular row. I can extend this out by getting rid of the ats. I get a spill error. I've done my calculations. Okay. So I can do this in Excel, but I look at my formula and I go, that's a little bit of a messy formula. I'm not very excited about it. Right? It's got a lot of things going on. It's got this table reference. It's got the amount, rate, frequency, maturity. it's a little hard to read. Might be hard to debug if I've got the parentheses in the wrong place, that sort of thing. So my solution to this is, and we'll create it over here for a second, I'm going to create a Lambda function. It's going to take an amount, maturity, rate. I don't like using that. So one thing you should avoid in these variables is to call them something. You want to call them something other than functions, right? So I don't want to use the rate, because that rate as my variable name, because I can, but I don't want to because that's actually a function. So we're going to call it RT for rate, and we're going to call it FREQ for frequency. And my formula here is amount divided by 1 plus RT divided by frequency to the power frequency times maturity. So there's my formula. And we can check here that it works. Again, I'm passing the variables afterwards. So the amount, maturity, rate, frequency. Okay, so there's my function. Again, that's a little harder to read, right? And again, maybe I want this as an array formula. So I'll get rid of the @ signs. Same answer as before, so I haven't done anything yet. Here is the kind of interesting functionality for Lambda functions. I'm going to copy, so I'm just selecting right now the Lambda part of my function. So as you see, I've gone to the closed parenthesis. I haven't taken any of the variable names. I'm going to Control-C to copy that, and then Control-F3 to bring up the name manager, Alt-N for new, and I'm going to call this PV function. So there's my function, and I'm going to paste the Lambda function in. So if I look down here, I've got this new thing, new name, PV function, and it's equal to Lambda, amount, mat, and so on, what I just defined, and I'm going to close. And I can now go PV function. It's got amount, mat, rate, frequency, so it tells me what it's supposed to be. And let's pass in the whole thing, amount, maturity, rate, frequency. Look at this. And I get a new function. So I've just created a new function, PV function. How did I do that? I created a Lambda function. I copied and pasted the Lambda function itself into the name manager. We can see down here it refers to this Lambda function. You've got to be careful when you're doing this to get the whole Lambda function defined, not to lose any parentheses and so on. I tend to test the Lambda function in Excel before I copy and paste it here. It's hard to debug these. Define a name in the name manager, which is my Lambda function, and now I can call that Lambda function as if it were a native Excel function. So I've added functionality to Excel here by defining a new Lambda function. And the nice thing, of course, is that this Lambda function exists in my spreadsheet, exists in my name manager. I've got no Visual Basic. So I've added a function. Hopefully it tells me what it means. It's got these parameters, and I did not have to use Visual Basic, and now I've avoided my distribution problem.